A lot of different things have been said this year about WWE 2K26 and MyFaction. A lot of people like myself have called it a live service slop game mode because the way that they've ramped up the monetization, the microtransactions, how they've been releasing broken persona cards like we saw in the video, my last video from last week. I mentioned how Seth Rollins 2017, he's broken, he's basically half-assed, and there's just a lot of different controversies with the game. And so, believe it or not, what I actually want to talk about today in today's video about MyFaction is not even what you think. I just want to break it down from a fundamental game perspective and just gameplay in general of how it's just bad. It's bad game design, and it's something that I like to call artificial difficulty. So just like always, timestamps will be in the description below. So we're just going to go ahead and get into it. So one of the things that I've just kind of been regurgitating all year long is that I don't really play MyFaction. The only time you'll see me play MyFaction is usually at the start of a season because like I said, this is a great way to go through the ringside pass. Or if occasionally there's a cool persona card I want, or if it's just an actual cool card that I think will be kind of fun to use whenever I'm playing it, for RSP, I'll hop into it. So since this new season pass is out, I've been playing it. And so one of the things that I recently noticed is they got this live event for a Soul Ruka card. And this is the thing, you're gonna need the Sapphire Soul Ruka card that was in the Momentum Pack. Now, to my attention, the Momentum Pack is no longer available for purchase. So what you have to do is, you have to specifically go over to, I guess, we're gonna call it what? The marketplace, and you have to individually purchase Soul Ruka. Now, this is the thing though. First off, like I said, you're gonna need that Soul Ruka card. So after you get her, then you can unlock Ruby Soul Ruka, then you can get 87 overall Amethyst Soul Ruka, and then last but not least, you can get the 89 overall Amethyst Soul Ruka. Now you might be asking, so how are we gonna get her? Like I said, you need that Sapphire Soul Ruka from the Momentum Pack. And so once you go over to the marketplace, you got one or two options. You can either spend 35,000 MyFaction points or 30,000 VC. Or if you just want to buy it, VC about 32,000 is gonna run you about $10, which is like in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of money. But it's like, why in the hell would I spend that money in this game mode after I've already spent money on the actual game itself? And then you have an alternative choice. So right now, they got a bunch of season themed live events with, the DLC characters like Tori Wilson, Matt Cardona, La Parka, Brian Pillman. And this is what's interesting. So if you play these season themed live events, you can get 3,000 MyFaction points for completion. So I know you're going to sit here and ask yourself, so what's the problem? Because it sounds relatively easy, right? Well, here we go. So the first match that I played, it was actually Matt Cardona against Randy Orton. And so to run you through the journey in a brief summary, each of these matches have some sort of a stipulation or like a gimmicky rule to make it a quote-unquote challenge. In the Orton match, it's a regular match with the only exception being that Randy Orton, he starts off with a finisher. And well, with Randy Orton being Randy Orton, you know that you have to watch out for the RKO. So a bit of a defensive edge, for you to start the match. Something else that's also worth mentioning is that you need to get 90 MyFaction points and win the match in order to win the reward. Normally it's like 60 MyFaction points, but it's irrelevant for this match, but it will play a huge role for my issue with this. Now either way, I played the match against Randy, and I kind of forgot that he had an RKO. And I gotta admit, I almost choked, I almost lost the game because of this crucial error. But I was able to clutch up and still win the match. Dare I even say that I kind of had fun? And then so after that, the next match that I hopped into, Tori Wilson against Charlotte. The only stipulation worth mentioning is that just like in the previous matchup, Charlotte does begin the match with a finisher, but overall in this match, it wasn't difficult. It was kind of where the crack started to show. Now all year long, I've been vocal about my problem with the stamina system not allowing you to reverse once the purple bar of doom comes up. This match perfectly summarizes my frustration. I couldn't do anything with Tori without the purple bar coming up. You could do one attack and maybe one or two reversals, and suddenly the bar, it was just there. Then it would just pop up again like 15 seconds later. Now, I think it kind of goes without saying, obviously I'm over exaggerating, but you still get the point. Either way, I won the match, and I guess you could say it was still cool. Now then, the next matchup I did, La Parka versus CM Punk. Specifically, it's the Borderlands version of CM Punk, but this matchup right here, this is where I completely lost it. So of course, you just pretty much know by now, Punk starts the matchup with a finisher. But this isn't a regular match. Instead, it's one of those backstage brawls, and it has another stipulation being that any sort of damage inflicted by a weapon is gonna do double the damage. Now in this matchup, you're immediately at a huge disadvantage because La Parka is a high flyer. So to get his 90 MyFaction points, you have to do high flying moves, but you can't because there's no ring. And with La Parka, his specific match actions, they include the following: 1 crowd taunt, 1 opponent taunt, land 1 finisher, land 1 signature move, land 3 diving attacks, land 5 running attacks, land 3 springboard attacks, and you need to complete at least 6 out of the 7. Go ahead and get it out of the way, get the 6-7, get the 6-7 jokes out, all you want. You need to do 6 out of 7 of these, plus win the matchup to win. Well, here's the first issue with it. You can't do springboard attacks because remember, there's not a ring. Everything else is easily achievable in theory, but it's extremely annoying to get the 3 diving attacks because again, since there's no ring, you just kind of have to improvise. So what I did specifically is, I had to keep trying to throw Punk out of the ring, and you have to kind of get it at, I guess you can say, a perfect sort of angle, because if he's considered too far, even if he's still kind of close, the animation won't trigger where you kind of jump and, did I say jump? When you kind of jump and dive on him. But either way, you got to throw him out, hope you don't throw him too far, and you just have to keep running and diving out of the ring. And this is also another annoying aspect about it as well. When you do it, he's probably going to reverse it a few times, and that's what started to annoy me even more. However, the moment where things just took an extreme turn for the worse is when attempting to hit him with a signature move. Because again, you got to remember, the most important thing here is that this isn't a regular match. It's a backstage brawl. I tried at least 6 times, and the dude just reversed it every single time. And so like I said, since it's a backstage brawl, I didn't have to wait for his health to refill so I can attack him and earn a signature without knocking him out. Because remember, if you end the match prematurely without the 90 MyFaction points, what do you get? Absolutely nothing. And so, you know, I'm trying to earn a signature without knocking him out, and then being able to do the signature without knocking him out as well, so that I could finally end the match with a finishing move. Now, common sense would have been for this to be a regular match, or just a match with 60 MyFaction points instead of 90, or for whatever reason they needed to be a backstage brawl with 90 MyFaction points. At least ensure that it's not a character who needs rope moves to do certain tasks required to get the MyFaction points. After about 30 minutes of just doing this over and over and over and over and over and over again, eventually I just got so frustrated that I just stopped paying attention, and eventually I missed the reversal cue. He hits me with a GTS, and you already know, he wins the match by knocking me out. Guess what? Wasted 30 minutes for absolutely nothing. And at this point I was just so irate that it was almost reminiscent of my final stretch of Elden Ring.
What the fuck? No! Fuck! 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 Fuck, man! Fuck! Fuck! Fuck!
Can I get up? Right, get like. Fuck! But of course, finally, what you've all been waiting for, because what made me snap? What made me just so angry? What made me lose it, both figuratively and literally speaking? So the final event that I played, it was Brian Pillman against Drew McIntyre. Now the rules are simple. Drew starts the match off with a finisher, and just like in the previous matchup, there's going to be double damage inflicted by weapons. But to make things even more interesting, It's also a Falls Count Anywhere match with an Iron Man stipulation of 5 minutes. In a span of 5 minutes, I'm supposed to do either one crowd taunt, one opponent taunt, land one finisher, land one signature move, land 25 light or heavy strikes, land 10 light attacks, damage the opponent's head to red, and again, I need to complete at least 6 out of 7 of these to win. What the hell are we doing? Now keep in mind that Pillman has a low stamina attribute, it's like in the low 60s. Now, this example perfectly sums up the problem with the stamina system preventing reversals this year. I'm in a match with a character who, A, he has terrible stamina, B, has to win in under 5 minutes, C, needs to complete 6 out of 7 goals, and D, 5 of those goals require lots of stamina. The main argument people use in defense of the Purple Bar of Doom is that it forces you to be strategic and not able to reverse everything. So what are you supposed to do in a situation where you have to constantly attack and be able to quickly defend yourself, because again, it's a time limit of 5 minutes. This is just objectively bad game design and, like I mentioned earlier, artificial difficulty. Now, some examples to prove it are, believe it or not, Souls-likes. And I know what you're saying, why am I comparing a WWE game to a Souls-like? Allow me to answer that question. So, imagine you're playing something like Elden Ring, and imagine it's a difficult boss in the game. They might have an insane attack pattern or the ability to just disappear or teleport mid-fight before, reappearing out of thin air and attacking you. Now, the first few times you might feel enraged, confused, cheated, or that the game is just unfair. But eventually you'll learn when to expect this, or you'll learn the attack pattern, and then you'll learn how to beat them. That's good game design because it's a challenge that forces you to study your enemy's movement and therefore adapt to the situation. Another example is a turn-based game like Baldur's Gate 3, especially for someone like me who has no interest in D&D or turn-based games. There were plenty of moments I struggled and I couldn't understand why. But the game allows you to succeed by either learning the rules, obviously, or thinking outside of the box. There was this one specific tough fight I just couldn't win because it was too many enemies. But I had the idea of reloading my save and then prepping the area beforehand. And so what I was able to do was, I was able to pick up boxes and I sealed off entry points, and then it allowed me to kind of have control over the area. And so once I restarted the fight, I was able to just kind of trap enemies and surround them, and then strategically pick them off one by one. This is good game design because it forced me to think, and then it even allowed me to use a crazy idea. And again, the argument for this in WWE 2K26 is that it forces you to be smarter, slower, and more methodical. But to still show that that's just not the case, look at a game like Ghost of Yotei from last year, or even The Witcher 3. On the hardest difficulties, the boss fights in these games will absolutely destroy you, but if you take the time to learn the enemy attack patterns and even go on a defensive approach, you can easily win the fights, especially in The Witcher 3 if you're going to use the oils, potions, or the Witcher signs. In WWE 2K26, not a single one of these examples can apply to this match. If you go on the defensive approach, you're just going to waste stamina, and then eventually you won't be able to reverse, which means you won't be able to defend yourself. If you even take the offensive approach, you're just going to run out of stamina in record-setting time. 2K should have used common sense and either apply unlimited stamina to this event like they've done with others, but truthfully, I don't even understand why they added a 5-minute time limit instead of 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or why they just didn't lower the required MyFaction points to 60 or even 75. And I already know somebody's going to be like, it's just a skill issue. No. A skill issue would be like the Brock Lesnar, Rhea Ripley, or even the Great Khali live events where they all started the match off with 3 finishers. The only difference between those and this is that they were legitimate challenges. With Rhea, you know that her CPU is going to try to get you with a Riptide or an Avalanche Riptide. I even think she had a signature move as well, so she had 3 finishers and a signature move. Against Brock, you know he's just going to try to give you an F5, or one of the ways that he did beat me on it, because it took me like 3 attempts, he attempted a super finisher shooting star press. This is also easily winnable if you just play defensive and bait the CPU into doing their finisher and then, just reverse it. Now, the trigger is one of them all, the Great Khali. With the Great Khali, his super finisher is that submission move, where he just kind of squeezes the life out of you. Every time that he would put me in it, it was just wraps, it was game over. So what I did was, I ran outside of the ring to just kind of either reverse them or to let him do the move on the outside of the ring and avoid losing, because even if I tapped out, it's not a false count anywhere match. In a match against Drew, there's no real strategy besides the fact that he's going to attempt a Claymore at the start of the match. And what's even more infuriating is that just like the match against Punk, Drew is going to reverse every single finisher. I think it was my second attempt, but he reversed like 3 finishers in the span of 20 seconds. Like, come on, man. And even then, at one point, I attempted to hit Drew with a running attack, but he kind of intercepted it at the last minute and he hit me with a Claymore. Like, come on, in any other circumstance, I could have been like, ooh, damn, that was cool, that was hard. But given the situation, it's just like, it's annoying. It was completely unnecessary, but that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm tripping, but I just think 2K could do a lot better, because if you want to do something, did I say to something? If you want to do something for a player that's going to be a challenge, make it an actual challenge. Don't do artificial difficulty. Don't make something just overly complicated for the sake of being overly complicated, and it's not even any real difficulty. You just essentially stack the odds as much as possible with no real solution. You're pretty much playing Russian roulette. You just gotta hope, hey, maybe somehow I get bailed out, maybe somehow I get lucky. And again, I could have seen if this was like a live event where you just had to, because Brian Pillman, his card is a Ruby card, and you had to use any Ruby card, and I was just purposely using a lower overall Ruby card. But no, you were specifically required it, so then why are you gonna just screw me over like that? But either way, maybe I'm tripping. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Have you played this event? Were you able to somehow beat were you able to beat La Parka? Were you able to beat Punk? Were you able to beat Drew? What did you do? Hell, what am I doing wrong? Anybody got any tips? But either way, if this is your first time stopping by the channel, go ahead and get that leg ready, because I want you to super kick Sweet Chin Music the hell out of that like button, and then we're not done. I want you to pick up that subscribe button, and I want you, for the matter of fact, since we're talking about Drew, I want you to throw that subscribe button. I want you to run off the ropes, and I want you to catch it, and I want you to hit it with a mean. I'm talking about the meanest Claymore kick. But either way, man, your boy finna sign out. Take it easy.